Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Hollywood Knitter vidcast. My name is Allison and I will be your host. I'm recording on Tuesday, February 9th, 2016 after a very long bout with illness for me. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about my whips. No FOs today, and then a bit of gossip about my upcoming travels and recent travels. So let's get started, shall we, with the knits. So I have 3 whips. The fourth one is my scrappy blanket. I haven't worked on it at all yet, even though February 1st came, 9 days into it. I've been really trying to focus on getting some of these done. We'll start with my big one. So close. This is my Shell Seeker by Heidi Kirrmaier and my Miss Babs striped yarn in the Blackbird and Shaken Not Stirred. And it has my cool pocket. And you can see I am in Sleeve Island Land. And yeah, that's kind of it. I have this much yarn left and I weighed it. And before I started my sleeves, this is the more critical one because of there's more at the edgings, is 66 grams of this left. And I think Miss Babs starts at 240-ish. So it should be enough. It's not going super slow. Like I'm already this far and I think I've used 10 grams or so. And then I have plenty of the Shaken Not Stirred. So I talked about wanting to have this done for my trip this weekend. And I could if I were to barrel on these sleeves, but I'm not going to. I wanted to do it right, and right now I'm still not sure I like the bottom. It's curling a little bit. I actually knit it twice, and it could be something that comes out in blocking, but I'm not going to have time to block it. And basically, initially this calls for a shorter front and a longer back, and I decided not to do that. I had initially done that for the front and kind of didn't like the way it looked and wasn't sure how much yarn I would have, and I knew I would have more of the Shaken Not Stirred, not the black. So I decided to just do a few more rounds to make it a little longer because it seemed a little short for me because I'm a little tall. So I redid it, and then it had started to kind of move up and stuff, so I reduced stitches, went down to needle size, all the stuff I normally do to try to make sure ribbing doesn't curl. And it still seems to curl a little bit. So I may have to rip it out and redo it a third time, which is one reason I don't want to push it and make myself finish it for leaving on Friday, or even to bring it on the train, because I do think it will benefit from blocking and all that stuff. So very close to being done. I'm gonna keep working on it. I should have this done in the next 2 weeks then. As I said, I'm not gonna bring my trip with me this weekend, but I will have it done shortly thereafter. And I am really enjoying it. The only thing is I think I might wish it was a bit longer. It will be hard to really truly know until I block it and finish it and try it on. But I think that might be the case. I don't know. I'll let you guys know as I finish or get close to finishing. But the pattern itself, the Shell Seeker, is really easy. I know, for example, the Kangaroo Pocket, I really struggled with the instructions reading in advance and trying to understand it. And then I kind of went on Ravelry, and some people just said, yeah, it doesn't make sense, just do them as you come to it and it will make sense. And it did. I just followed the instructions and didn't really didn't think of how it was putting together, and it worked. So I'm pretty happy with it, happy with how it's coming out, and I think it will be a great kind of pull-on sweater when I am done, though it will be after my trip. The other thing I've been working on that I kind of pulled out was my Lefty. This is done in Miss Babs Sock Yarns Gray, and then the contrasting colors were a gift, and they were sock lights, I think. I can't remember the yarn. Basically, there was 4 colors that came, and I used 3 of them. The purple, the green, and the orange, and then I bought the gray to go with them. So I pulled that out and just kind of been plugging away, doing a bit here and there. It's mostly good mindless in between, but the leaves take a little time. So a few times I've had to put it down because I wasn't in a place where I could do it. So I had to put it down, and I kind of I had been kind of weaving my ends as I go, and I have a few ends to weave in and do. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with it. I have a long way to go, so I'm going to try to use up all the gray. I don't know how much that will give me. It's definitely a long-term project, and that is the Lefty by Martina Bem. And I have it in my Tangerine Designs bag with the cool little mushrooms and all the little forest animals. Love this bag. Last thing I'm working on, which so excited I think I will actually finish, were the socks I was making for my boyfriend for Valentine's Day. And he's actually seen these. I was keeping them secret, but then one of the more recent trips I went on, he was there and somebody asked about them, and I said they were for him. I wasn't gonna lie. So the first one is done, and this is in a cool yarn I got from Finland that I talked about last time, the Lanatum Ex Machina, and this is in Helm's Deep, and it's the basic sock superwash wool nylon. And initially I was worried about it being kind of scratchy on the ball, but it knits up well, and I think when I wash it, it will be fine. And I basically knit these toe up. For him, I cast on 16 Judy's Magic cast on, increased to 72 for the foot. Then I did a broken rib, 3x1 rib, into Fishlets Kiss heel, which I did also on the 36. And then after the heel, I reduced down to 68 because he has rather slender ankles and lower legs. So that was kind of based on the first sock. That was the numbers I came up with. So these are the second pair of socks I'm making them. So hopefully they'll fit. And to show you how far along I am on the second one. Da-da-da! So I only have, that much left. And it's pretty mindless. I definitely think I will finish it. If I don't finish it before Friday, I will finish it on the train. And I will weave in the ends and give them to him right then, because he has been an amazing sock recipient, and I'll talk about that. So those are the 3 things I have on the needles, and that's it. I kind of really want to finish some of these. I'm ready to cast on some new ones, but I'm semi-monogamous, wanting to finish that sweater and then this. So that's all I have for my knitting right now. I know, so exciting. And instead, I'm going to talk about what's been going on with me, a bunch of my recent travels. Last time I talked to you, I think, was it right before I went to Yuma? I think it might have been, or right after I came back from Yuma. Anyways, I went to Yuma to see my boyfriend, and then came back. And then that week, while I was here, my boyfriend's, I kind of mentioned it last time, my boyfriend's uncle had passed. And so the trip was made to go to Texas, and he asked me to go with him. And so I said sure, because it was a lot of his family was going, because his aunt doesn't have any family who lives in Texas. All their family lives in the greater LA area. So he's texting me from Yuma and making these plans. He's like, well, how do you want to go? It's kind of last minute. We need to go, Thursday, Friday, because the service was, the viewing was Thursday, and then the service was Friday. And he's like, yeah, I kind of don't want to buy a plane ticket. It's really expensive last minute, like $400 or $500 for such a short trip. What do you think about, Greyhound? And this is to going with his cousins. And they were going to take the bus, and because his uncle's in a wheelchair, they were, limited in how they could go, but they didn't want to drive because of the timing, rent a car. I don't know. I basically, unlike a lot of things, just gave up control and said, whatever you want to do, I'll do. And so it ended up being, we booked tickets to take the Greyhound from Los Angeles to El Paso, Texas. We left on Wednesday night and returned on Saturday night. And it was hands down the worst trip I've ever had. Not the trip itself in Texas, but the traveling. I am not a prima donna. I am not high maintenance. I don't mind a lot of things, but this trip was, it was, a lot of things went wrong. And Greyhound as a company doesn't care about their passengers, doesn't care about timeliness, doesn't care about keeping a clean bus, doesn't care about a lot of things. So right now, don't ever take Greyhound. And I'm not saying all buses, I'm saying specifically Greyhound in the United States. Really, really bad, especially long distance. So a little more detail. So we were getting on in Los Angeles, and then his cousins were getting on, his cousin, his wife, and then his aunt and uncle were getting on at the next major LA stop, which is El Monte, which is only like half hour away from downtown. So we took Uber over with our luggage to the downtown station, and that was all fine. And then we had tickets with boarding passes kind of things, and people kind of line up. I mean, the Greyhound station itself wasn't all that exciting. Yeah, it had some weird people. There were a lot of, it's a major station. I didn't really have a problem with that. And then by the time we boarded like mid-bus, and they don't reserve any seats, which is fine. But we were traveling as a couple, and we got like the last 2 seats together. And then the bus proceeded to fill up rather fast. And I was like, I know 4 more people are getting on the next stop, including one in a wheelchair. And I mentioned it to the driver, and I was like, okay, driver, just so you know, our uncle is getting on the next stop and he's in a wheelchair. Oh, really? Yeah. Do you need to do anything special to... He's like, yeah, but we'll see. Can he walk at all? And we're like, no. He's like, okay, whatever. We were like, okay. Then we proceeded brand new, 6 o'clock, we're supposed to leave. Oh, we're going to be running a little late already. But that's okay because there's a lot of traffic. I was like, okay. So we take off late. We get to El Monte. He's got to move people out of seats where the wheelchair is supposed to go, even though I told him that there was going to be a wheelchair getting on. So he makes people move all over the bus. There's like 3 seats left. So they do get on after this long rigmarole, but his cousin and his wife can't sit together. They're sitting near close to us, and the guy's like, well, somebody's getting off the next stop. You can come sit in the front. And it was like, okay. So we're running late, and it's just a crowded environment, interesting, weird people. It's dark. And so we get going. And then we get to Phoenix, where they throw everybody off the bus. But then before they throw us off the bus, he's like, well, I don't know if we're going to have to switch buses because we're running late, or if they're going to redo this bus or whatever, but we'll just tell you. I was like, okay. So we get off the bus. They're like, all right, everybody get off the bus. We're going to switch buses. And then he tells us to take our luggage that we had checked underneath. So we did, but then some people didn't have to, and they just put the luggage on the next bus. And then everything is first come, first serve. So I noticed this, and so I got in line and was waiting in line while the people would go to the bathroom. And I was like, no, if we don't get in line, we're not going to get 2 seats together, because people aren't nice on the bus and don't want to give up, even though you're going to have to sit next to someone. Then so this is the middle of the night. This is like 2 in the morning. Everybody's got to get off. Nobody can stay on the bus. Okay. So we get on the next bus, and we're going and starting to fall asleep. It's kind of tough. It's about 4:30 in the morning. We're on the 10 in Arizona and going along. All of a sudden, kabloom! I'm like, oh. Woke up. Everyone wakes up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think we just blew a tire, is what my initial thought was. And we're waiting, and the bus is still going a little bit more, starts to shudder, and then we start to get off at this exit. Bus is still starting to shudder more. Come to the end of this exit, and he goes to take a left under the underpass, and we peter out. We run out of steam, no power, in the middle of the intersection trying to do the turn. Awesome, I think. Just awesome. We're like, I don't know, 45 minutes outside of Tucson. We can see a gas station, but we're in the middle of an intersection of a road. Seems sort of busy-ish because it's how people get off the freeway. And there we proceed to be for the next 2 hours. He calls the police. He tries to call for the bus company, but we can't get off the bus because it's unsafe. We're in the middle of an intersection. Police come. They tell everyone to get off the bus except us because they've run out of power or something, and so they can't get the handicap door open, let alone get the wheelchair ramp off. And so they don't know how they're going to get my boyfriend's uncle off the bus. So we stay on the bus. Everyone leaves and goes to a gas station nearby. bus driver's like, how are we going to get him off the bus? Well, I don't know. Can you see if the mechanic can open this? You know, he can't walk. He can't whatever. Can we call the fire? We don't want to call the fire department. We don't want to go through the window. We don't want to. Finally, after much discussion and argument about various people, not me, I kind of just stepped back and I was like, whatever. They basically took they took him, put him on a towel and dragged him down through the middle of the bus and got him off the bus that way after like 2.5 hours. And then we went to the Chevron station and waited for another 2.5 hours for a replacement bus to arrive. So this is 5 hours. It was whatever. And ended up being a broken axle. Broken axle. That's just bad maintenance, people. Bad maintenance. And then they couldn't get a replacement driver. They couldn't get a replacement bus. Ended up being, when we got a replacement bus, it was the same driver. So he kept driving. I was actually a little worried that he was a little tired. Maybe he shouldn't be driving. But whatever. So needless to say, we were running late. And we were then going to be pushing right up against to when the viewing was. And we had to have people pick us up. And got to El Paso finally. Got off the bus. And you know, me and the other woman were like, we got to take a shower. I'm like, we were on the bus, our bus trip, from when I left the house to when we got there was about 24 hours. We were on the bus for about 22 hours. 22 hours. Well, minus our 5 hours where the bus was broken down. But our journey on Greyhound was 22 hours in one way, shape, or form. Supposed to be 16. So, significantly more. And no offer of refunds. They did buy us a meal when we were at the gas station waiting for the replacement bus. That was nice. Someone came over and bought us a meal. But, yeah. And the handicap seats aren't really handicapped. They kind of shove seats aside and do less and do more. And it just was bad. In Texas, the service, everything went well. It was really a fun time because we all stayed at his aunt's house. And so there was like 20 of us because that's the way they do it in his family. Kind of just everyone was sleeping wherever they could. And it was his cousins and his aunts and his uncles and all adults, like, luckily I say, because I think it was a funner time. You know, when people who grew up together but don't get together as adults that much anymore, it was really fun to see them all because they used to hang out a lot more and do these kind of things when they were younger. And then as they've kind of all grown up, all the cousins and had kids, it's changed. So it was kind of like, you know, a reversion back to the way it was when they were kids. So we were supposed to leave on the bus Saturday. Now, his aunt and uncle were taking a later bus and they decided not to. Their other daughter had driven out there with her husband and they said, we're going back with you. We're not going to risk Greyhound. You know, this is his uncle is in the wheelchair. And so they decided to do that. Well, I was like, we gotta finish it. You know, we got the ticket, let's do it. You know, maybe it'll be easier. We don't have the wheelchair. And waiting at 2:30 in the morning, the bus is already late or from leaving. And the people on this bus are just weird. So we get on the bus finally after it took a half hour to take our luggage and tag it. We got the weirdest pat down from security when I was like, we're just going to get on that bus that's loading right now. And he's like, nope, I still have to check all your bags, everything, even though we were literally walking through the terminal and walking right back out the door. And this is at 2:30 in the morning in El Paso. Okay. Get on the bus, and we're the last people on the bus kind of thing, because people had to get off the bus and reboard the bus. And because of some slow luggage, we weren't able to get in line faster. And there's no seats together. And so I go to the back of the bus where there's a bunch of single men who have been talking to each other. And I'm saying, hey, me and my boyfriend are traveling together. Would anyone mind moving so we could sit together? And I just get blank freaking stares all around. And they was like, well, I'm traveling with my friends. So you can't sit next to them? I was like, fine, whatever. I was really annoyed. So we went towards the front of the bus and like we separated and kind of sat near each other. And as we journeyed on and some people got off, we were able to sit next to each other. But it was just annoying. You know, couldn't fall asleep. And I ended up getting these seats that didn't recline and all this other stuff. So the bus goes and dumps us out in Phoenix again because they don't know if we're going to take the same bus, whatever, da da da. So on this bus, we had a person on a wheelchair, and they can really only accommodate one per bus. So it was good that his uncle wasn't with us, because what I found out later, you're not guaranteed a seat. After all the complaints, and I was reading the complaints for Greyhound, their tickets are pretty much all non-refundable. So you get bumpkus if something goes wrong. They have no customer service, and they're saying, sorry, too bad, so sad. Which makes sense if they're cheap. But they also don't, even though you buy a ticket for a specific bus route and a specific time, that bus comes and there are no seats, you have to wait for the next one. And if I had known that, there would have been no way I would have advocated this, because if there was any chance that I was going to get stuck in El Paso at 2:30 in the morning, not getting on the bus, or maybe only 2 of the 4 of us or something like that, I would have been like, heck, no way. Anyways, we're in Phoenix and we're just, okay, it's not been too bad of a ride. Whatever. So we get off and we're only supposed to be there an hour. We go have lunch. Hour passes. And we see them trying to reload the woman in the wheelchair. And the lift isn't working. And the lift isn't working. And the lift isn't working. We're going to switch buses because they had told us we were going to take the same bus. So we left our bags on. You guys got to remove all your bags. We're going to go to a different bus. Fine. We remove our bags and we're waiting in line because we want to make sure we seat together. And we're watching them try to load on the second bus, this woman in the wheelchair. Try. Leave her sitting there like halfway up, not working for like 15 minutes. And then finally take her down. And then nothing for another half hour. Now, at this point, we're already a half hour beyond when we're supposed to have left. Nothing. They're not telling us anything. But we're watching them try to load this woman. They bring a third bus. Third bus is finally a charm. They're finally able to get the lady on. We are now an hour and a half late. All right, so we finally board the bus. We're getting on the bus. The bus driver's like, all right, we're going to Los Angeles, da-da-da-da. Getting on the freeway, this guy comes down the aisle, says to the bus driver, I'm on the wrong bus. He's like, what? I'm supposed to be on the bus. There was another bus, whatever. He got on the wrong bus. So we had to turn around and go back. And that took like another 15, 20 minutes before we go dump this guy, because it was just bad. And then, yeah, we're going and it's just at this point surviving, just trying to get through and laughing. Most of the time I was laughing. I just had to laugh. Like, it was so awful. I had to laugh. It was just awful. Finally made it back Saturday night. We took the Uber, came home. We immediately went out and had some beers because we actually didn't have any beers over there. They're not really big drinkers, and I just wanted a beer so bad. So we went out, got some food, beer, and just never take Greyhound. Never going to take it again. I've done it once. Everyone I've talked to who's done it once says, hey, yeah, I took it way back when and it sucked. Well, it still sucks. A lot. And then as a result of that, I got horrendously ill on Monday, and I know it's from germs I picked up on the Greyhound bus. Now, I don't usually get sick. It's very rare for me to get sick. But on Monday, I came down at work. I got this horrible headache, and I felt just like crap. And I came home halfway through the day and then proceeded to get this flu, bronchitis, something that I was out. I had to go to work on Tuesday because I had a meeting, but I was awful. And then I felt bad because I got someone sick that day. Wednesday, I went for half a day. Thursday, I finally didn't have meetings, and I took Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the rest of the weekend. And I pretty much was on the couch, not even knitting much. That's how awful I felt. And you can still sort of hear it. This is the first day I've been able to record where I'm not coughing, and I don't sound super bad, but I still have stuff in my lungs, and I'm still kind of coughing up stuff, and it will take me a little while to get over it. So I got the Greyhound flu. On top of all of that, now, as I said, the trip itself and meeting his family, they were incredibly gracious, giving his aunt who we were staying with, whose husband passed, was incredibly gracious. I was the only kind of new spouse there. A lot of them didn't travel with their spouses because they had kids and things like that. So they graciously welcomed me, and I'd never met him before, but that was a wonderful experience, seeing everyone and doing all of that. So last weekend, as I said, I just sort of recovered, hoping to get knitting done, not really. And now I have my trip to Chicago coming up this weekend, my Amtrak trip. I'm all about planes, trains, and automobiles these days, people. And I did a ship too, so all of them. But I'm really excited, though. I wish I'd had a little more time in between travel because I am a little burnt out after this trip. I'll be ready to stay home for a month or so. Just kind of do stuff around the house. Just this past weekend, even though I was really sick, like I had to clean the house. I actually called cleaners to come, but I still had to do some stuff, and you know how it goes. But this weekend we leave on Friday night. We have a 6 o'clock train out of LA, and we get into Chicago per schedule on Sunday, like 3-ish, but I hear it's regularly 2 to 3 hours late, depending on what's going on, because Amtrak rents the rails from the freight companies, and so they have priority, and so sometimes you're slowed down. Cool. I've been prepping, trying to figure out what we're going to bring, how we're going to do it, keep entertained, and then we get in Chicago. We have a hotel not that far from the train station and the main part of downtown, and then we're going to go out that night, hopefully. And then we fly back on Monday. So it's kind of a really quick trip, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it will be fun to meet people and see people. And as long as I don't get a sickness, it will be fine. And I'll get a lot of knitting done. As I said, I'm going to finish the socks up. I think I'm going to bring my lefty, and I'm going to bring another small project. And I want to bring my shell seeker because it's just kind of bulky. So I have to cast on at least one more project. And then I'm loading up on podcasts, and we'll probably bring some games, and you know, it'll be exciting. I will tell you all about it when I come back. Other than that, we're having a wonderful heat wave right here in Los Angeles. It was in the mid 80s, and that feels beautiful, except I've been too sick to actually take advantage of it and go outside like I normally would. I've really been just resting. I have been really tired. So I've been trying to recognize that and respect that. But that's all I think I have going on right now for everybody. Upcoming travels after my Valentine's Day trip is I probably have another weekend in Yuma, I think in March. And then April is my next time I'm doing travels, and I have the Knockers Retreat, the Northern California Knitting Retreat up north. And I have a girls' weekend in Austin, Texas. I have decided, as I said, because of the aforementioned too much travel, I'm not going to make it to Stitches West. I can't come back from Chicago on Monday and then drive down Friday or Saturday. I thought I would be up to it, and if I hadn't been doing so much travel and recovering from being sick, I might have been able to, but decided no Stitches West this year. So sad. I'm going to miss all my friends there who are going to be partaking of it, but hopefully next year. And I'll see a lot of them at the Knockers Retreat. And yeah, that's what I got coming up. Oh, I know the trip I forgot. I went to Vegas. Duh. Between Yuma and the trip to Texas, I went to Vegas with my family. So that was fun. I drove out on Thursday, and my grandmother and her boyfriend and my mom and her best friend and her best friend's husband and my brother and my sister and my 2 uncles and their wives and my aunt and her husband all were there, and we watched the Patriots lose the playoff game on Sunday. The only thing I have to say about that is that larger group, it was kind of hard because we were all staying at different hotels, and so I didn't get to see everyone as much as I wanted. Like, my grandmother was a bingo fiend, and I never made it to bingo, and I only got to talk to my uncles a little here and there. So that was my only thing, is I wish we could have hung out more, but it was a lot of fun. Didn't lose a lot of money, did a lot of walking. We stayed downtown, and it was more for my mom and, you know, my grandmother and stuff, and they really enjoyed all being together. And then I always love hanging out with my family, so that was a lot of fun. So yeah, so I did that, and I came back, drove back on Monday, and then I took Wednesday, I got on the Greyhound bus. So that's why I'm burnt out. Like, I did 3 weekends in a row where I was gone, 2 of them where I drove, then the Greyhound debacle. And then last weekend, I was just on the couch recovering. And then this weekend, I'm taking the Amtrak. And so next weekend, after that, hopefully I'll be healthy and be able to enjoy doing all of the stuff in Los Angeles I need to. I haven't been hiking forever. I haven't done a lot of things. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that everyone is having a wonderful February and everyone has a happy Valentine's Day. If you don't have a loved one, love yourself. I used to like Valentine's Day when I was single. It's a day to just celebrate you, do something for you. So I am Allison1031 on Ravelry and Instagram, my two media of choice. And you can always join the Ravelry group or drop me a private message on Ravelry or at allison1031@gmail.com. So that's a wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are knit. Bye, everybody.